Welcome to Dialogue 4. So how'd you like that last lesson? Some pretty cool tools built into Resolve, right? And we aren't done looking at tools. So that's what this lesson is about. This lesson builds on the last one. So anything like with the dialogue processor that didn't really make sense, a lot of that's going to make more sense after you're done with this lesson. So let's go to the end of this sequence. I've got sample audio here. It's me talking with a clothes dryer running in the background. And then in the other part, I'm talking without background noise, but I get really loud and then really soft. So we're going to take the problems here and see how we can fix them with these tools. First, let's take a listen to the audio. And this is high quality production audio. I'm talking normal right now, so I put this at minus 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then I'm a little quieter, and then I'm a little louder again, and then I'm a little quieter. So how could we fix this if it was production dialogue? And sure, we could slap on the voice isolation tool, but what if you don't have studio? And voice isolation isn't going to help with these peaks. Now you could go through and manually key stuff, but that becomes very tedious. So with that, we're going to look at the Dynamics Toolset. And this toolset is not an effect that you can add to a clip. And that's my biggest beef with this. It's track-based only. So to access Dynamics, look over at your mixer and you'll see all of your tracks here. And as you know, you can pull this out and you'll see Dynamics specified. Just double click on the window. So this is another grouping of industry standard tools that Fairlight has put together in one interface. So just keep in mind that each of these tools are separate things that can often be used individually on clips and tracks all by themselves in various ways, and we'll get into that later. But we've got an expander, a gate, a compressor, and a limiter. And we have a lot of finessing we can do within this tool set. For example, let me bring up the dialogue processor, apply to this clip. So the dialogue processor has compressor and expander, but look at the difference in the tool sets, right? For compressor, we have threshold, amount, and then fast or slow, but then we have all of this stuff here. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of this layout, and then we're going to start using these tools and learning how to use them as we do that. So up here we've got some templates that you can apply if you want to try those out for any reason. This resets to default. This turns the whole thing on and off. This is your input meter. So when I play, I'm talking normal right now, so I put show me what's going on. This is the window of changes, which shows us visually what we're doing, which is amazing. Like with the dialogue processor, we're making changes and we're just listening, whereas this we can graphically see what we're doing, which is really, really nice. The gain reduction meters are tied to the individual tools down here in order. So this first one is expander and gate. This one is compressor. This one is limiter. Makeup gain, if we need to boost the volume because whatever we've applied to our input signal maybe lowered it or whatever the reason might be, we can do that here. Output shows the output level once our tools have been applied. So nothing's turned on, so if I play this, I would put this at minus 12. Input and output are going to be identical, okay? And then sidechain has to do with adjusting the volume of one track based on another track. I don't use that, and I couldn't even tell you how, so we're going to ignore that. And then we have our tools, and you can turn each of these on or off individually. Awesome, so let's do this. So the first problem I have is background noise, right? It's very loud. So for that, I'm going to use an expander or a gate. These are mutually exclusive. They're doing the same thing, but they do it in different ways. And I didn't tell you when we used an expander with the guy on horseback, why it's called an expander. Here's why. Remember what dynamic range is with audio. It's the softest parts to the loudest parts, and that's your dynamic range. So this dialogue has a certain dynamic range. Okay, hear that nice background, and it's kind of from here to here. It's not very big. Why is that? Well, because we never get really soft because of the clothes dryer running in the background. So it's got a very small dynamic range. So an expander allows us to target a certain decibel area and drop everything down below that, which makes the background noise quieter, which is expanding the dynamic range of our audio. Does that make sense? So let me loop this. Make sure we have this checked. It is, okay. Let me turn this expander on. Option /. Okay, see how amazing that is? We can see exactly where the background noise is hitting. So I'm going to continue looping this, and then use this visual interface to get my threshold set precisely. Okay, that's pretty close. And so now if I go over here to ratio, look at that. I can control how much the background noise drops at this threshold and below. Okay? So I can drop that off quite a bit. And then range with ratio gives me even more control. See that? So let's just play this. I'm going to loop it again and tweak these, and you can hear the difference. Wow, amazing. I mean, in 5 seconds, we've almost eliminated the problem. Now, I'm going to try the gate. So what a gate does, instead of expanding your dynamic range, a gate is just hard shaving stuff off on the lower area. So let me click on gate, and ratio goes away with the gate tool. It's just range. But look at that. I can just lob that off. So let me play it now. So that's amazing. It's gone. Now it sounds good there, but let's listen to it with the actual dialogue. I'm going to clear my in and out. Here we go. And this is high quality production audio. Okay, that's impressive. Let me go back to Expander and see what it sounds like. And this is high quality production audio. So I can hear the clothes dryer a little bit still in the background. So you might be thinking, why would you use an expander at all? Why not just use a gate all the time? Well, here's one reason. Sometimes if the background noise is too close to the dialogue decibel, then if you carve it off with a gate, you're going to eat into your dialogue. And so if you run into that situation, like if this clothes dryer was louder, I wouldn't be able to gate it off as much. And an expander would be better because I can keep that background back there, but just have it quieter and then not eat into my dialogue. Because remember, our main dialogue might be hitting around minus 12 decibels, but the trail off of words and syllables drops much lower than that, and that pushes it down towards the same decibel as that background noise potentially. But if you really want to carve off background ambience, then a gate is going to be your tool. Just be careful not to eat into your dialogue. Now let's look at these tools on the bottom. What are these about? So attack has something to do with how it samples the audio. And if you set it too high with this dialogue, it's not going to work right. It's going to eat into the dialogue and not do the effect correctly. Like for example, let me crank this up. And this is high quality production audio. So see, it's sampling slower or something, and then it's not doing the gate correctly. I don't know all the science behind that, but I'm going to leave it really low. And this is high quality production audio. So it seems to be sampling faster and executing better. Hold, what that does is it affects how long we have before the gate kicks in once the threshold is hit. So for example, as I'm talking here, the gate's not going to kick in because the talking is happening up here. But once I quit talking and the volume drops off and then hits that threshold, then the gate kicks in, and hold determines how long that takes. So at 0, it's right away. But if I wanted that to take longer, and this is high quality production audio. And then boom. Release is a taper, a nice gradual taper into the gate. So if I increase release all the way up to 4,000 milliseconds, and this is high quality production audio. See how nice that was? Really, really nice, which makes it not as obvious. So for example, if this was the guy on the horse, I could set the release really high, throw in the forest ambience, and that taper off might be sufficient. So let's just do that. I'm going to play the production sound for this shot, and then we'll apply a gate with a high release, and then we'll just do a normal expander and see how they compare.
This way. This way. This way.
So if I were choosing between a gate or an expander for this specific shot, I would probably lean towards the expander, and I would do this with the forest ambience laid in and see how it sounds, but an expander lets me cut that background noise way down, but it may not eat into his dialogue quite as much as a gate would. And again, this is always going to change based on how loud the background noise is compared to your dialogue and how close they are together, etc. So make sure you compare them And so if we were doing this shot for real right now, I wouldn't stop with this. I would lay in the forest ambience, as I said, and start comparing the two in more detail. But let's move on. Let's look at our compressor now. I'm going to turn this off for a second, turn this back on. And while I'm thinking of it, by the way, if you're ever in Dynamics and the tools are gray and it's not working, sometimes it gets disconnected from the track for whatever reason, and you can just close it and reopen it. Or you can simply just click on the track that you're working with, and that kicks it back into gear. So if you run into that, just do one of those two things. So let's turn on the compressor. What does a compressor do? Well, a compressor is going to help bring down your peaks, but it can also bring up your low parts. It works with shaping the dynamic range of your audio. It's not just about bringing loud stuff back down. And you can do some pretty cool stuff with compressors. There's a third-party one I'm going to show you that has some really cool presets, but that's what a compressor does. So let me play this piece of audio here where I am really soft and they get really loud. I'm talking normal right now, so I put this at minus 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then I'm a little quieter, and then I'm a little louder again, and then I'm a little quieter. So a compressor is going to help us bring that dynamic range, shape it in a way where I'm not just slamming down my peaks, but I'm just kind of balancing out in a better way. So let's take a look. So the threshold, you can see, just like with expander and gate, we can see a nice visual as to where the threshold is going to kick in. With an expander or gate, I'm saying, hey, when the dialogue gets this quiet, kick in. With the compressor, I'm saying, hey, when it gets this loud, kick in. So let's just set our threshold to minus 12. This is not going to be a low enough decibel rating, but I want you to see how this works. Ratio controls how much compression is added. You can see there that green bar. So see if I get this math right. It's saying if with a minus 12 threshold, if the audio goes louder to like minus 10 decibels, so 2 decibels over, it's going to compress it by 1, a 2 to 1. So it'll drop it to minus 11. Make sense? Again, the visual is way easier, but let's leave it at 2 to 1. You don't want to do too much compression on dialogue. And let's play this and watch the input and the output. It's 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then I'm a little... Okay, this is louder than this is, but this is still up in the red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the threshold versus upping the ratio right now. Try it again, decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then... Okay, it's working. I'm talking normal right now, so I put this at minus 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then I'm a little quiet. Okay, look, that worked. And how does it sound? At minus 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then I'm a little quieter. That's good. It's working pretty good. And then we've got attack, hold, and release down here that you can further fine-tune things with. And again, you can play around with the ratio, but you don't want too much compression on your dialogue, or else you'll start noticing it. Now we've got knee and mix as well. What do these do? Knee affects this point right here. So if I was doing pretty sharp compression, my knee will smooth that out a little bit. See? And so in fact, let's just really compress it and we can hear the difference. Let me do no knee decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then, okay, so if I knee that and smooth it out, decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then, I mean, I don't even think I heard a difference, but it's doing a difference, and it's a lot of fine tuning. Mix, what this does is it takes whatever compression we've done and then it blends it in to the original audio. So it's kind of like the opacity of a layer. If I had a white and a red and I adjusted the opacity of the red, it would start to kind of turn pink as it blends with the white. So mix, if you want to use it, just allows you to kind of blend your changes in, and sometimes that can get the sound that you're after. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now we've got a limiter. What's that about? Let's turn these off, turn on our limiter. So a limiter is only about bringing down your peaks. It's not shaping the dynamic range of your audio like a compressor is. So if I set this to minus 16, when it hits that threshold, the limiter is just going to start bringing it down. It's going to still go over minus 16, but let me just play it for you. 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little loud. So see, I'm safe over here now. And I don't have the same controls like ratio and knee and stuff, but I do have these. But this is just pretty simple. Set the threshold, it kicks in. I'm talking normal right now, so I put this at minus 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder, and then I'm a little quiet. Now let's compare that to the compressor. I'm talking normal right now, so I put this at minus 12 decibels, but all of a sudden I'm a little louder and then I'm a little quiet. A compressor is used to bring your peaks and your lows closer together to shape the dynamic range, whereas a limiter is just about cutting off those harsh peaks and bringing them into a safe zone. So depending on what you're working with, one is going to be better than the other. Most of the time, you're going to be using a compressor because it's going to make your dialogue sound better. You'll be able to sweeten things with one of these. And again, we'll go into that in another lesson. So is this making sense? I know we're getting deep in the weeds with this stuff, but understanding tools like an expander, a gate, compressor, and limiter are going to help you a lot as a sound designer. And you're going to see in later lessons how various tools sometimes want to work great and sometimes it doesn't work at all. And you have to know other tools to try to fix a problem. And also, it helps you be a better director. For example, I was shooting some of this training and there was a bunch of helicopters flying around recently because they were trimming leaves off power lines. And I'm like, this is not good. I'm trying to record. But then I thought, wait a minute, I brought the sound in and guess what? I could gate it off. So it wasn't an issue because it was a low enough decibel in the background that I could clean gate without affecting my vocals. No big deal. So can you see how the more you understand when you're on set and you run into issues, which you always do, not that you want to fix it in post all the time, but you just understand more about what you will be able to do later and you'll make better decisions while you're on set. If you are an aspiring filmmaker, check out Write and Direct, my online film school. It's writedirect.co. I promise you it will save you thousands of dollars and maybe thousands of hours on learning the craft of filmmaking. It teaches you development all the way through post-production. And you might think, hey, I just want to direct movies, and that's fine. But when you're first starting out, you have to know how to do it all unless you have millions in the bank to pay people to do it all for you. And so knowing how to do it all helps you move your career forward and pursue your dreams without being reliant on technical people because you don't know how to do it and you don't have the money to pay them. WriteDirect.co, check it out, and if not there, I'll see you here on the channel very soon.